Maya Chen pressed her small face against the observation window of New Eden Station. The 8-year-old girl watched the stars twinkle in the endless black of space. Her breath made little fog patches on the glass as she spoke into her recording device. Day 43 on New Eden Station, Maya said with the serious tone she used for her video diary. Mom says we might see a comet today. I hope it's purple like the one in my space book. Dr. Sarah Chen smiled as she watched her daughter from across the laboratory. Sarah had brought Maya to the edge of the galaxy for this research mission. New Eden Station was humanity's furthest outpost, a place where scientists studied alien life forms and tried to make friends with other species in the galaxy. The station housed 2,847 people. Families lived here alongside researchers, engineers, and diplomats. Children played in the recreation areas while their parents worked on projects that could change the future of humanity. It was a peaceful place, far from the politics and problems of Earth. Maya pressed the record button again. The station is really big. It takes me 10 minutes to walk from our home to Mom's lab. Yesterday I met Mr. Rodriguez. He's an engineer who fixes the air machines. He told me that without his machines we couldn't breathe up here. That's scary but also cool. Sarah finished reviewing her data on Kepler moss, a strange plant that grew on several alien worlds. The moss could survive in space without any protection. If humans could understand how it worked, they might be able to grow food on ships during long journeys. Maya, come help me with this sample, Sarah called. Maya bounced over to her mother's workstation. The lab was filled with containers holding samples from different planets. Some glowed softly. Others moved like they were alive. Maya had learned not to touch anything without permission. What's that one? Maya pointed to a blue substance that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. It's a crystal from the Andromeda region, Sarah explained. The aliens who gave it to us say it can store energy for hundreds of years. We're trying to figure out how it works. Maya nodded seriously. At 8 years old, she already understood that her mother's work was important. Sarah often told her that they were building bridges between humans and aliens. Maybe one day Maya would do the same job. Across the galaxy, High Consul Zektar of the Kethmori hegemony studied reports about human expansion. The Kethmori were a powerful empire that controlled dozens of star systems. They had conquered many smaller species over the centuries. Now these humans were becoming a problem. They spread too quickly, Zektar told his military advisors. 50 years ago, they had barely left their home system. Now they have colonies and research stations everywhere. General Vorth, the head of Kethmori military forces, pulled up a holographic map. Red dots showed human settlements scattered across the galaxy's edge. They're weak individually, but they reproduce fast and adapt to any environment. If we don't stop them now, they could become a real threat. Zektar studied the map. His species had ruled this part of the galaxy for 1,000 years. They were not going to let some primitive mammals challenge their power. But the Galactic Council had rules about attacking other species without reason. The Kethmori needed to be careful. What about this one? Zektar pointed to a dot at the very edge of the map. New Eden Station. It's far from their other settlements. If something happened to it, would anyone notice? General Vorth smiled with his sharp teeth. It would look like an accident. Space is dangerous. Asteroids hit stations. Cosmic radiation can kill entire crews. These things happen. Exactly. We need to test their responses anyway. How quickly can they detect an attack? How far will they go to protect their people? This distant station is perfect for our purposes. The plan was simple but clever. The Kethmori would use stealth ships to approach New Eden Station. They would make the attack look like natural disasters. First, they would hit the station with artificial asteroids. Then they would flood the area with deadly radiation that looked like a solar flare. By the time other humans arrived to investigate, there would be nothing left but wreckage that told a story of bad luck and cosmic accident. Back on New Eden Station, Maya finished her daily video entry. Mom says tomorrow we might get a message from Dad back on Earth. I miss him, but I love living in space. Everything here is amazing. Oh, look, there are some pretty lights outside. Maya pointed excitedly at what looked like shooting stars approaching the station. She had never seen anything so beautiful. The lights danced and sparkled as they came closer. Sarah looked up from her work and felt ice in her stomach. Those weren't shooting stars. They were moving too fast and in too straight a line. Maya, get away from the window, now. The alarm systems began screaming throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red in every corridor. Captain Williams' voice echoed from speakers everywhere. All hands to emergency stations. We have incoming objects. This is not a drill. Sarah grabbed Maya and ran toward the emergency shelter in the center of the station. Around them, other families and workers were doing the same thing. Children cried as their parents carried them through the corridors. "Mom, what's happening?" Maya asked, her voice small and scared. "I don't know, baby, but we're going to be safe. The station has strong shields and emergency systems." But even as Sarah said the words, she knew something was terribly wrong. The objects outside weren't random asteroids. They moved with purpose, adjusting their course to hit the station's most important systems. The first impact shook the entire station like a toy in the hands of a giant. The lights went out for a moment before emergency power kicked in. The second impact was worse. Maya could hear the sound of metal tearing and air rushing out into space. Captain Williams tried to send a distress signal to Earth, but the communication array had been destroyed in the first wave of impacts. The station's shields flickered and failed as more projectiles slammed into the hull. In the emergency shelter, families huddled together as the station died around them. Some people prayed. Others held their children close and whispered that everything would be okay. Sarah hugged Maya tight and tried not to let her fear show. "Are we going to die, Mom?" Maya asked quietly. Sarah looked into her daughter's eyes. Even now, even facing the end, she wanted to protect Maya from the truth. "I love you so much, Maya. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." The final wave of attacks came without warning. Invisible radiation flooded through the station's broken hull. It was painless but deadly, designed to kill every living thing while leaving the technology mostly intact for later study. Maya Chen died holding her mother's hand, never knowing that their deaths were not an accident. She never knew that powerful aliens had decided human life was worthless. She never knew that her death would one day spark a war that would shake the entire galaxy. The station went silent. The research that could have helped humanity explore the stars was lost. The families who had dreamed of building a better future were gone. The Kethmori had successfully tested their weapons and tactics on an isolated human target. High Consul Zektar received the mission report with satisfaction. The humans had not even managed to send a distress signal. When other humans eventually found the wreckage, they would see only the aftermath of cosmic bad luck. The Kethmori could continue their testing on other human settlements, learning how to destroy humanity piece by piece. But Zektar made one crucial mistake. He assumed that humans were like other species the Kethmori had conquered. He assumed they would accept losses and move on. He assumed that the death of a little girl and her mother at the edge of nowhere would be quickly forgotten. He was wrong. Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the twisted metal floating in space where New Eden Station once stood. 3 months had passed since the accident. The official report said cosmic radiation and asteroid impacts had destroyed the research station. Case closed. Move on. But Elena didn't believe in coincidences. Her ship, the Prometheus, was built for deep space investigation. Elena's crew included the best forensic specialists and computer experts in the human fleet. They had been sent to confirm the official story, but Elena had other plans. "What do you see, Rodriguez?" Elena asked her chief investigator. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez floated outside the ship in her spacesuit, scanning the debris with advanced sensors. "The damage patterns don't match the official report, Captain. If this was random asteroid impacts, the metal would be bent differently." "These holes are too clean, too precise," Elena nodded. She had suspected as much. "What about radiation signatures?" "That's the weird part. There are traces of exotic radiation that don't match any natural cosmic source. It's almost like someone tried to copy the signature of a solar flare, but got the details wrong." Elena's communications officer, Ensign Park, looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. There's a partial data core about 2 kilometers from our position. It's heavily damaged, but it's still transmitting a weak signal. How is that possible?" The official report said all data cores were destroyed. This one must have been ejected during the attack and protected by its emergency shielding. It's barely functional, but it's there. Elena made a quick decision. "Rodriguez, get back inside. We're retrieving that data core. Park, prepare the recovery systems." The data core was about the size of a briefcase and looked like it had been through hell. Burn marks covered its surface and several panels had been torn away. But the central storage unit was intact. Back in the Prometheus's laboratory, Elena's team worked carefully to extract information from the damaged core. Most of the data was corrupted beyond repair. Research files, personal messages, and station logs had been reduced to digital noise. But then they found something remarkable. "Captain, you need to see this," called Dr. Kim, the team's data specialist. "I found a personal video file that somehow survived. It's from one of the civilians." Elena leaned over Dr. Kim's shoulder as the video began to play. A small girl with bright eyes appeared on the screen. She was sitting in what looked like a laboratory, talking to the camera with the serious expression children use when they think they're doing something important. "Day 43 on New Eden Station," Maya Chen said in the recording. "Mom says we might see a comet today. I hope it's purple like the one in my space book." Elena felt her heart tighten. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old. She watched as Maya talked about her life on the station, her mother's research, and her excitement about living in space. Then the video jumped forward. Maya was at an observation window, pointing excitedly at something outside. "Oh, look! There are some pretty lights outside." The camera shook as explosions rocked the station. In the background, Elena could hear alarms and people shouting. The video cut to static, then ended. Elena stood in silence for a long moment. That little girl had recorded her own death without knowing it. Those pretty lights had been weapons designed to kill everyone she loved. "Run a spectral analysis on those lights," Elena ordered. "I want to know what kind of weapon system produces that energy signature." Dr. Kim worked for hours, comparing the video data with every known weapons technology in the Galactic database. Finally, she found a match. "Captain, this is definitely artificial energy discharge. The wavelength and intensity patterns match Kethmori plasma weapons. But there's something else. The radiation signature in the debris matches Kethmori stealth technology." Elena felt anger building in her chest. The Kethmori were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They controlled dozens of star systems and had a reputation for aggressive expansion. But they were also members of the Galactic Council, which meant they followed certain rules about warfare. Attacking civilian research stations was definitely against those rules. "Are you certain about this analysis?" Elena asked. "Absolutely. The evidence is clear. This was a deliberate attack using Kethmori weapons and stealth technology. They made it look like an accident. But they weren't quite good enough to fool detailed forensic analysis." Elena called up the Galactic database and began cross-referencing reports of other accidents involving human settlements. What she found made her blood run cold. Over the past 2 years, 7 human outposts had been destroyed by cosmic accidents. All were remote settlements with small populations. All had been hit by unusual combinations of asteroids and radiation. All had left debris patterns that didn't quite match natural disasters. The Kethmori hadn't just attacked New Eden Station. They had been systematically testing human defenses and response capabilities. By destroying isolated settlements and making the attacks look like bad luck, Elena immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth's Strategic Defense Command. She included all of her evidence: the weapons analysis, the radiation signatures, and Maya Chen's final video recording. The response came back faster than Elena expected. Admiral Marcus Sterling himself contacted her via secure channel. "Captain Vasquez, your findings are disturbing but not entirely surprising. We've been monitoring unusual activity in Kethmori space for months. Your evidence confirms our worst suspicions. What are our orders, Admiral? Continue your investigation, but be careful. The Kethmori don't know we've discovered their deception yet. We need to gather more evidence before we can act. Also, we need to understand the full scope of their testing program." Elena spent the next week investigating other attack sites. Each one told the same story: careful, deliberate attacks disguised as cosmic accidents. The Kethmori were learning how quickly humans could respond to disasters, how thoroughly they investigated suspicious events, and how much evidence they needed to prove hostile action. But the aliens had made one crucial mistake. They assumed human investigation techniques were primitive. They didn't realize that humans had developed incredibly advanced forensic technology specifically because they were newcomers to the galaxy and needed to understand every threat they faced. During her investigation, Elena discovered something else troubling. The Galactic Council had records of similar accidents happening to other species over the past century. Dozens of civilizations had lost remote settlements to mysterious cosmic disasters. Most had accepted the official explanations and moved on. Those civilizations were now extinct or under Kethmori control. Elena realized she was looking at evidence of a pattern that stretched back generations. The Kethmori would test a species by destroying isolated settlements. If the species was weak or naive, the Kethmori would gradually escalate their attacks until the entire civilization was conquered or destroyed. The attacks on human settlements weren't random acts of aggression. They were the beginning of a systematic campaign of extermination. Elena sent her final report to Admiral Sterling with a heavy heart. She included everything: the evidence of deliberate attacks, the pattern of similar accidents affecting other species, and her analysis of Kethmori long-term strategy. She also included a copy of Maya Chen's video diary. Elena wanted the Admiralty to see the face of the little girl whose death had exposed this conspiracy. Maya had died not knowing that she was documenting the first shots of a war that could determine humanity's survival. Admiral Sterling's response was brief but ominous. Evidence received and confirmed. Begin Phase 2 protocols immediately. Tell no one outside your crew about your true findings. Report that New Eden Station was destroyed by cosmic radiation and asteroid impacts as per the official story. Elena understood. Humanity needed time to prepare for what was coming. The Kethmori thought they were conducting secret tests on a primitive species. They had no idea that humans were now watching them just as carefully. As the Prometheus headed back toward human space, Elena looked once more at the debris field where New Eden Station had been. Somewhere in that wreckage were the remains of Maya Chen and her mother, along with 2,045 other innocent people. The Kethmori had killed them all to test human reactions. They thought no one would ever know the truth about what happened at the edge of nowhere. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime was a massive dome, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Ambassador Janet Harrison stood at the human delegation's podium, holding a data tablet that contained proof of genocide. Around her, alien delegates whispered among themselves with sounds that ranged from musical chirps to mechanical buzzes. Honored Council, Janet began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. The human government has discovered evidence that the destruction of New Eden Station was not an accident. It was a deliberate attack by the Kethmori hegemony. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species expressed shock with rapid color changes. Others made sounds of disbelief. The Kethmori delegation sat perfectly still, their pale blue faces showing no emotion. High Consul Zektar rose from his seat. He was tall even by Kethmori standards, with the ceremonial scars that marked him as a veteran of many conquests. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "These accusations are outrageous," Zektar declared. "The humans come before this council with wild conspiracy theories because they cannot accept that their primitive technology failed them. Space is dangerous. Accidents happen. The Kethmori hegemony has existed for 1,000 years. We do not need to attack insignificant research stations." Janet activated her holographic display. Maya Chen's face appeared above the podium, frozen in her final moments of innocent excitement. "This is Maya Chen, age 8. She was recording a video diary when your weapons destroyed her home. She thought the incoming missiles were pretty lights." The chamber fell silent as Janet played the recording. Maya's voice echoed in the vast space as she described her life on the station. When the video reached the moment of attack, several alien delegates made sounds of distress. "Analysis of the weapon signatures proves these were Kethmori plasma weapons," Janet continued. "The radiation patterns match Kethmori stealth technology. This was not an accident. It was murder disguised as cosmic misfortune." Councillor Vexta of the Altarian Republic leaned forward. The Altarians were known for their careful approach to galactic politics. "Ambassador Harrison, these are serious accusations. Do you have independent verification of this analysis?" "We do. Our investigation team included forensic specialists from 3 different human colonies. All reached the same conclusion. We also found evidence that this attack was part of a larger pattern." Janet activated another display showing a galactic map. Red dots marked the locations of destroyed settlements across dozens of star systems. Over the past century, 47 different species have lost remote settlements to cosmic accidents. In every case, the accident occurred shortly before that species faced increased Kethmori pressure to join their empire or faced military conquest. The chamber buzzed with concerned conversation. Many delegates began checking their own records of lost settlements and strange accidents. Sektar's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The humans see patterns where none exist because they are paranoid and desperate. They arrived in this galaxy only recently and understand nothing of its history. These coincidences, they cite, are the natural result of expansion into dangerous regions of space. Then explain this, Janet said, activating a new display. Our investigation found traces of artificial isotopes in the New Eden debris. These isotopes are created only by Kethmori industrial processes. They have no natural source. For the first time, Sektar's perfect composure cracked slightly. Janet noticed his hands tighten on his speaking platform. The evidence was becoming harder to dismiss, but Counselor Thren of the Krillian Collective spoke up. Even if these isotopes exist, they could have been introduced by space traders or through natural contamination. The humans are new to space. They do not understand how materials move between star systems. Janet felt frustration building. The Council wanted to believe the Kethmori because they were afraid. The hegemony was powerful, and no one wanted to accuse them without absolute proof. We also found records of similar isotope signatures at other accident sites. Janet pressed. The pattern is clear. The Kethmori have been systematically testing the defenses and responses of smaller species by destroying their remote settlements. Sektar stood again, his voice now filled with righteous anger. The humans insult this council with their fantasies. They accuse the Kethmori hegemony of cowardly attacks on civilians because they cannot accept their own weakness. We have never needed to hide our military actions. When the Kethmori make war, we do so openly and with honor. Several alien delegates nodded in agreement. The Kethmori had a reputation for direct military action. The idea that they would conduct secret attacks seemed inconsistent with their known behavior. Janet played her final piece of evidence. This is a recording from our deep space monitoring network. It shows a Kethmori stealth fleet moving through the sector where New Eden Station was located. The timestamps match the attack. The recording showed ghostly outlines of ships moving through space. The images were enhanced and filtered, but the distinctive shape of Kethmori vessels was unmistakable. Sektar barely glanced at the display. Kethmori ships travel throughout the galaxy on legitimate business. The presence of our vessels in that region proves nothing. These humans see threats everywhere because they are weak and frightened. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates seemed convinced by the human evidence. Others questioned whether the proof was sufficient to accuse such a powerful empire. Many simply wanted the controversy to disappear. Finally, Council Speaker Mordun called for order. The elderly Zen Thari had led the council for decades and was respected for his wisdom. The humans have presented evidence of their claims. The Kethmori have denied these accusations. Without independent verification, this council cannot take action. Janet felt her heart sink. Speaker Mordun, we are willing to share all our evidence with independent investigators. We only ask that. The matter is closed, Mordun announced. The council finds insufficient evidence to support human claims of deliberate attack. The destruction of New Eden Station is officially recorded as an accident caused by natural cosmic phenomena. As the session ended, Janet watched the delegates file out of the chamber. Many avoided looking at her directly. They knew the humans were probably right, but they were too afraid of Kethmori power to act on that knowledge. Sektar approached Janet as she packed up her evidence. Your species shows promise, he said quietly. You are persistent and clever. It is unfortunate that you have chosen to make enemies unnecessarily. We didn't choose anything, Janet replied. You made this choice when you murdered 2,147 innocent people. Sektar smiled with his sharp teeth. Accidents happen in space, Ambassador. Your species would be wise to remember that as you continue your expansion into dangerous regions. The threat was clear. Janet understood that the Kethmori were not finished with their testing. They had learned that humans could detect their attacks and present evidence to the Council. Now they would adjust their methods and try again. Back on Earth, Admiral Marcus Sterling received Janet's report with grim satisfaction. The diplomatic approach had failed exactly as he had expected. The galaxy was too afraid of the Kethmori to act on human evidence, no matter how compelling. But the diplomatic mission had served its real purpose. While Janet presented evidence to the Council, Sterling's intelligence operatives had been watching to see how the Kethmori responded. They learned which council members could be trusted, which ones were afraid, and which ones might be secret Kethmori allies. More importantly, they confirmed that the Kethmori leadership was arrogant and overconfident. Zektar believed his empire was so powerful that humans would never dare retaliate directly. He thought his stealth technology was undetectable and his weapons untraceable. Sterling activated his secure communications array and sent coded messages to human fleets scattered across the galaxy. The diplomatic phase was over. Now it was time to show the Kethmori what humans did when diplomacy failed. Dr. Kenji Nakamura sat in his laboratory beneath the Colorado mountains, studying the isotope samples Elena Vasquez had recovered from New Eden Station. As Earth's leading expert on alien technology, he had been working with Elena to trace the attack's true origin. The isotope signatures are definitely Kethmori, he told Elena over their encrypted communication link. But there's something else. The energy weapon residue shows they were using new technology, more advanced than anything in our intelligence files. What does that mean? Elena asked. It means they've been developing weapons specifically for these covert attacks. This isn't just testing with existing technology. They've created an entire program for conducting genocide disguised as accidents. Elena felt sick. The scope of Kethmori planning was staggering. They had built weapons, trained crews, and developed strategies specifically for murdering civilians while maintaining plausible deniability. There's more, Kenji continued. I've been analyzing the attack patterns from other accidents over the past century. The Kethmori have been perfecting their techniques. They started with crude attacks that barely looked natural. By the time they hit New Eden Station, they had refined their methods to near perfection. How many species have they done this to? At least 47 that we know of. Probably more. Elena, we're not dealing with random aggression. This is systematic extermination on a galactic scale. The Kethmori have been committing genocide for decades, and no one has stopped them because no one could prove it. Elena thought about Maya Chen's video diary. The little girl had been excited about the pretty lights that were coming to kill her. She had died without knowing that her death was part of a plan that stretched back generations. What happens now? Elena asked. Kenji was quiet for a moment. Now we stop pretending to be the naive newcomers everyone thinks we are. The Kethmori have no idea what humanity is really capable of. They're about to find out. General Vorth studied the tactical display showing Harmony Station, humanity's second-largest research facility. Unlike New Eden, this station housed 15,000 people and served as a major hub for human scientific cooperation with other species. Destroying it would send a clear message about the price of making accusations against the Kethmori hegemony. The Human Council presentation was embarrassing, Vorth told his staff officers. High Consul Zektar wants a response that will discourage further investigations. This time, we make sure no evidence survives. The Kethmori assault fleet consisted of 12 stealth cruisers equipped with the latest generation of their disguised weapons. They would approach Harmony Station from multiple directions, overwhelming its defenses before anyone could send a distress signal. Remember, Vorth continued, this must look like a massive system failure followed by reactor explosion. Nothing survives. No data cores, no witness accounts, no traces of our involvement. Captain Thekva of the lead cruiser nodded confidently. The humans will find only debris and radiation. Another tragic accident in the dangerous frontier of space. The fleet departed Kethmori space using routes that avoided all known monitoring stations. Their stealth technology rendered them invisible to most sensors, and their ships were equipped with devices that would leave false energy signatures, suggesting equipment malfunction rather than attack. But as the Kethmori ships approached Harmony Station, something unexpected happened. One by one, they simply vanished from Vorth's command display. Report. Vorth barked at his communications officer. Sir, we've lost contact with all attack vessels. No distress signals, no debris, no energy signatures. They just disappeared. Vorth felt cold fear creeping up his spine. 12 advanced warships don't just vanish without a trace. Could they have been destroyed by human defenses? Impossible, sir. Our intelligence shows Harmony Station has only basic civilian shields and no military weapons. The humans don't even have patrol ships in that sector. For 6 hours, Vorth waited for some sign of what had happened to his fleet. No wreckage appeared on long-range sensors. No emergency signals were detected. The ships had simply ceased to exist. Then a message arrived on official diplomatic channels addressed to the Kethmori High Command. The sender was listed as Director Sarah Walsh of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. Greetings, High Consul Zektar. the message began. "We have a matter of mutual interest to discuss. Your recent military exercise near Harmony Station has concluded successfully. All participating vessels and crews are safe and in good health. We would like to arrange a meeting to discuss the return of your property." Zektar read the message 3 times before understanding hit him like a physical blow. The humans had captured his entire attack fleet without a single shot being fired or distress signal sent. "That's impossible," he told Vorth. "Humans don't have the technology to capture stealth ships. They barely have faster-than-light travel." But even as he spoke, Zektar knew something fundamental had changed. The humans who had stood before the Galactic Council seeming helpless and naive were not what they appeared to be. Director Walsh's second message arrived 12 hours later. This time it included video footage that made Zektar's blood turn to ice. The recording showed the interior of a massive space facility unlike anything in the public records of human technology. Captain Thekva and his crew sat in what appeared to be comfortable detention quarters, very much alive but clearly prisoners. "High Consul," Thekva said into the camera, his voice carefully controlled. "The humans intercepted our entire fleet using technology that shouldn't exist. Our stealth systems were completely useless. They knew we were coming before we even entered the sector." The video shifted to show the exterior of the facility. Kethmori warships floated in docking bays alongside vessels from dozens of other species. Some of the ships displayed markings that Zektar recognized from raids conducted years or even decades ago. Director Walsh appeared on screen. She was a middle-aged human woman with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to see right through him. "High Consul Zektar, my name is Director Walsh. I believe we need to have a conversation. For the past 50 years, humanity has been what you might call keeping a low profile in galactic affairs. We've presented ourselves as newcomers eager to learn from older, wiser species. Many of you have accepted this image because it was convenient for your own purposes." Walsh gestured to the captured ships behind her. "The truth is somewhat different. Humanity has been exploring space for much longer than most species realize. We've been watching, listening, and learning from every interaction we've had with galactic civilization." The camera focused on Walsh's face as she continued. "We know about the systematic extermination campaigns conducted by the Kethmori hegemony over the past century. We have evidence of 47 species that have been wiped out or enslaved using your disguised attack methods. We know about the secret weapons development programs and the coordination with certain corrupt council members." Zektar felt the foundations of his empire's strategy crumbling. If the humans knew about the weapons programs, they might know about other secrets as well. "Most importantly," Walsh continued, "we know that the attack on New Eden Station was part of a planned campaign to test human responses before beginning systematic extermination of our species." The video shifted to show technical displays that made Zektar's military advisors gasp in shock. The humans had somehow obtained detailed schematics of Kethmori ships, weapons systems, and even classified military protocols. "Your stealth technology is impressive but not undetectable," Walsh explained. "Your weapons signatures can be traced with proper analysis. Your communication codes have been compromised for quite some time. We've been monitoring your military activities since your first test against human settlements." Admiral Marcus Sterling appeared beside Walsh. Zektar recognized him from intelligence reports as the head of human military forces, but something was different. Sterling wore a uniform that displayed rank insignia, unlike anything in the Kethmori database of human military structures. "High Consul," Sterling said, "you've been operating under several false assumptions about humanity. First, you assumed we were a new spacefaring species with primitive technology. Second, you assumed we would be easy to intimidate or destroy. Third, you assumed no one would notice or care about attacks on our frontier settlements." Sterling activated a holographic display showing the solar system, but instead of the simple planetary arrangement that appeared in galactic databases, the display revealed a vast network of defensive installations, hidden bases, and military shipyards. "This is the Sol system as it actually exists," Sterling explained. "Every planet, moon, and major asteroid has been militarized. The asteroid belt alone contains over 3,000 hidden weapons platforms. Jupiter's moon's house shipyards that have been building humanity's true fleet for the past 30 years. Zektar stared at the display in growing horror. The infrastructure shown would take centuries to build, not the few decades since humanity's supposed first contact with galactic civilization. You see, Walsh continued, humanity learned long ago that the galaxy is a dangerous place. We decided early in our expansion that we would be prepared for any threat. Every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange has also been an intelligence-gathering operation. The video showed human ships emerging from what had appeared to be empty space around Harmony Station. The vessels used technology that Zektar didn't recognize, moving with impossible speed and precision. Your attack fleet was detected the moment it left Kethmori space, Sterling explained. We tracked your ships using sensor networks you never knew existed. We disabled your vessels using weapons systems that are not in any galactic database. Your crews are unharmed because we wanted them unharmed. Walsh leaned forward slightly. High Consul, humanity is offering you one opportunity to end this conflict peacefully. You will surrender those responsible for ordering the attacks on human settlements. You will provide reparations to the families of the victims. You will submit to oversight of your military activities to ensure no further accidents occur. If you refuse these terms, Sterling added, humanity will demonstrate why we've spent 30 years preparing for this moment. The video ended with an image that burned itself into Zektar's memory. Maya Chen appeared on screen, frozen in her moment of innocent excitement as death approached her home. Below her image, text appeared. They thought no one would notice. They were wrong. Zektar turned to his advisors, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. How is this possible? Our intelligence on human capabilities was completely wrong. General Vorth spoke carefully. Sir, if their claims about monitoring our communications are true, they may have been feeding us false information for decades. Everything we know about human technology could be deliberately misleading. The implications were staggering. If humans had been conducting an intelligence operation on this scale, what else did they know? How many other species were aware of the Kethmori's true activities? How many secret alliances existed that the hegemony knew nothing about? What are your orders, High Consul? Vorth asked. Zektar thought about the display of Sol system defenses. He thought about the human ships that had captured an entire Kethmori fleet without being detected. He thought about 30 years of careful preparation that his empire had completely failed to notice. Then he thought about his reputation, his power, and the fear that had kept dozens of species under Kethmori control for centuries. If he appeared weak now, if he submitted to human demands, the entire hegemony could collapse as suppressed species rose up in rebellion. Send a message to all Kethmori fleets, Zektar ordered. We are mobilizing for full-scale war against humanity. These primates have forgotten their place in the galactic order. It's time to remind them. But even as he gave the order, Zektar felt doubt gnawing at his confidence. The humans had revealed capabilities that shouldn't exist. They had demonstrated intelligence gathering that rivaled the hegemony's own networks. They had captured 12 advanced warships as easily as swatting insects. What else were they capable of that he didn't know about? Director Walsh's final message arrived as Kethmori fleets began mobilizing across the Empire. It consisted of just 4 words. We expected this response. High Consul Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator as the largest Kethmori fleet in history approached the Sol system. 1,200 warships stretched across space in perfect formation. Each vessel represented the accumulated military might of species the hegemony had conquered over 1,000 years of expansion. Reconnaissance reports. General, Zektar commanded. General Vorth consulted his tactical displays with growing confusion. Sir, we're detecting minimal human activity. A few patrol ships near the outer planets. Some commercial traffic between Earth and Mars. Their response seems inadequate. Zektar had expected massive defensive fleets, panic evacuations, desperate calls for help from other species. Instead, the humans appeared to be going about their normal business as if 1,200 alien warships weren't bearing down on their home system. Perhaps they're evacuating their population, suggested Captain Morketh, Zektar's chief tactical advisor. Humans are known to be protective of their civilians. Or perhaps, Zektar said slowly, they're more confident than they should be. The memory of Director Walsh's calm demeanor and the captured stealth fleet made him uneasy. But surely no species could stand against the full might of the Kethmori hegemony. His fleet had broken the defenses of dozens of worlds. They had weapons that could crack planets and shields that had never been penetrated. As the fleet entered the outer solar system, Zektar got his first surprise. Jupiter was wrong. "Sir," called his navigation officer, "Jupiter is showing artificial structures that don't match our star charts. There are installations in orbit around all 4 major moons, and the planet itself appears to have been modified." Zektar enhanced the long-range display. Jupiter's great red spot had been replaced by a massive artificial storm that pulsed with regular energy discharges. The planet's moons were covered with structures that could only be military installations. "How long would it take to build something like that?" Zektar asked. General Vorth ran quick calculations. "With known human technology? At least 2 centuries. But humans have only been in space for 50 years. Then their technology isn't what we thought it was." As the fleet moved deeper into the system, more surprises became apparent. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter wasn't just a collection of space rocks. It was a weapons platform the size of a small moon, with thousands of installations hidden among the asteroids. Mars showed signs of massive underground construction. Venus was covered with orbital platforms that rotated in perfect synchronization. Even tiny Mercury had been transformed into what appeared to be a massive solar energy collection system. "Sir," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." Fleet Admiral Chen Wei appeared on the main screen. She was an older Chinese woman wearing a military uniform that displayed more rank insignia than Zektar had ever seen on a human officer. Behind her, the bridge of her ship hummed with activity. "High Consul Zektar," Admiral Chen said in perfect Kethmori language. "I am Fleet Admiral Chen Wei of the Sol Defense Command. You are entering protected space without authorization." Zektar activated his own transmission system. "I am High Consul Zektar of the Kethmori hegemony. Your species has made accusations against our empire and refused to accept the natural order of galactic civilization. We are here to correct your misconceptions." Admiral Chen smiled, but her eyes remained cold. "High Consul, you killed my sister." The simple statement hit Zektar like a physical blow. "I don't understand." "Dr. Sarah Chen, she was the xenobiologist on New Eden Station. She died holding her 8-year-old daughter when your weapons destroyed their home. Maya Chen was my niece." Chen's image was replaced by security footage from New Eden Station. Zektar watched Sarah Chen grab her daughter and run toward the emergency shelter as explosions rocked their world. He saw Maya's face, bright with intelligence and curiosity, in the moments before the radiation killed them both. "You murdered 2,147 innocent people to test human responses," Admiral Chen continued, her voice perfectly controlled. "You thought no one would notice the death of a little girl at the edge of nowhere. You were wrong." Zektar felt something he had rarely experienced in his long military career. Genuine fear. This human admiral wasn't making threats or demands. She was stating facts with the certainty of someone who held all the advantages. "Your fleet will surrender immediately," Chen continued. "Any attempt to proceed toward Earth or attack human installations will be met with overwhelming force." Zektar's pride flared. "You dare threaten the Kethmori hegemony? I command 1,200 warships. You have a few patrol boats and civilian installations." "Do I?" Admiral Chen asked. Space around the Kethmori fleet suddenly filled with the outlines of ships that hadn't been there moments before. Thousands of vessels materialized from what had appeared to be empty space, their stealth systems deactivating in perfect coordination. Zektar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet wasn't just large. It was massive beyond comprehension. 3,000 ships surrounded his forces in a perfect sphere, each vessel displaying technology that had no equivalent in the galactic databases. "How?" Zektar whispered. 30 years of preparation," Admiral Chen replied. "Every diplomatic contact, every trade agreement, every seemingly innocent cultural exchange was also an intelligence operation. We learned from every species we met. We adapted every technology we encountered. We improved on everything we found. The human ships were unlike anything Zektar had ever seen. They moved with impossible grace, changing direction and speed in ways that violated everything he knew about space combat. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like living metal. "This is impossible," General Vorth muttered. "No species develops this quickly." "You made several crucial mistakes," Admiral Chen continued. "First, you assumed we were newcomers to space. Humanity has been exploring the galaxy for much longer than we've admitted. We just chose to remain hidden until we were ready. One of the human ships demonstrated its capabilities by performing a maneuver that should have torn it apart. It folded space around itself, appearing instantly on the opposite side of the Keth Mori formation. Second, you assumed we were like the other species you've conquered. Humanity has advantages you don't understand. We adapt faster than most species. We learn from our mistakes. We're very good at holding grudges. Zektar watched his tactical officers try to target the human ships, but their weapon systems couldn't achieve lock-on. The enemy vessels seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Third, Admiral Chen said, you assumed that because we appeared peaceful we were weak. Humanity has been at war with itself for thousands of years. We understand violence in ways that most galactic species have forgotten. The demonstration began with surgical precision. Human ships targeted the Keth Mori fleet's weapon systems with beams that passed harmlessly through shields, but disabled every offensive capability. Within minutes, Zektar's 1,200 warships had been reduced to harmless hulks floating in space. Your crews are unharmed, Admiral Chen announced. Your ships are disabled but repairable. This is your only warning. Zektar felt his empire's reputation crumbling around him. His supposedly invincible fleet had been neutralized without a single shot being fired in retaliation. The Keth Mori were the ones who demonstrated overwhelming superiority. They were the ones who crushed resistance with irresistible force. Now they were helpless victims of an enemy they had completely underestimated. I don't understand, Zektar transmitted. How did you develop this technology so quickly? We didn't develop it quickly, Admiral Chen replied. We developed it carefully. Humanity has been preparing for this moment since our first contact with galactic civilization. We knew that eventually we would face a threat like the Keth Mori hegemony. A new display appeared showing Earth itself. The planet was surrounded by defensive platforms that made the Jupiter installations look primitive by comparison. Massive structures rotated in orbital configurations that hurt to look at directly. Every human settlement you destroyed was monitored by hidden sensors. Every attack you conducted was recorded and analyzed. We used your own testing program to gather intelligence about your capabilities and limitations. Zektar realized the full scope of his defeat. The Keth Mori hadn't been testing humanity. Humanity had been studying the Keth Mori. Every successful attack had actually been a learning opportunity for their enemies. What happens now? Zektar asked. Now you face justice, Admiral Chen replied. The Galactic Council refused to act on our evidence, so humanity will act alone. Every Keth Mori officer involved in the attacks on civilian settlements will be tried for genocide. Every ship used in those attacks will be confiscated. Every world suffering under Keth Mori occupation will be offered independence and protection. The transmission shifted to show detention facilities where Keth Mori officers were being processed. Captain Thekva appeared on screen, looking older and more tired than when Zektar had last seen him. High Consul, Thekva said, they know everything. Not just about our recent operations, but about campaigns going back decades. They have evidence of every species we've destroyed, every world we've conquered through false flag operations. Zektar felt the weight of 1,000 years of conquest coming back to haunt his empire. How many civilizations had the Keth Mori destroyed using the same tactics they had tried on humanity? How many innocent people had died in accidents that were actually systematic murder? You thought no one would notice, Admiral Chen said, her image returning to the screen. You thought the death of my niece at the edge of nowhere would be quickly forgotten. You were wrong. Maya Chen appeared on screen one final time, frozen in her moment of innocent excitement as death approached her home. But now her image was surrounded by the emblems of 30 species that had allied with humanity. The little girl's death had exposed a conspiracy that stretched across the galaxy. The Keth Mori hegemony is finished, Admiral Chen announced. Your military is defeated, your crimes are exposed, and your victims will have justice. The galaxy will know what you really are. Zektar looked around his disabled flagship at officers who could no longer meet his eyes. His empire had been built on fear and the illusion of invincibility. Both were now shattered beyond repair. What about me? Zektar asked quietly. Admiral Chen's expression showed no mercy. You will stand trial for genocide. You will answer for every innocent life your empire has taken. You will face the families of your victims and explain why you thought their children didn't matter. The human fleet began moving the captured Keth Mori ships toward Earth. Zektar watched his empires, proud warships being towed like broken toys by vessels that represented everything he had failed to understand about humanity. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Zektar thought about Maya Chen's final moments. She had been excited about the pretty lights that were coming to kill her. She had died without knowing that her death would expose a conspiracy of genocide that had lasted for centuries. The little girl at the edge of nowhere had noticed, and through her humanity had noticed. And now the entire galaxy would know what happened when someone decided that human lives didn't matter. The Kethmori had thought they were testing a weak species. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. They had learned too late that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their memory, and they never forgot their own.